everyone. Welcome. It is Monday, November 29th, 2021. I am Salad Blue Sister, and this is My Turn to Talk. Welcome, Frankie. You are number one. Okay, we're going to get started. All right, so today is Mind Your Business when adult children need time to step back. When adult children, need to step back. When should adult children stick their nose in their parents' business? When should they know when to step back? All right, so growing up, um, you know, my parents would be in the middle of a conversation and I would interrupt and put my 2 cents in. And my mother would always say, mind your business, mind your business. Or you would hear people, you know, uh, your relatives or whatever, they would say, this is an adult talk, children, should be quiet, seen and not heard, one of those. Um, when should you, as an adult child, stay out of your parents' business? And when should you, or you, the adult, tell your child to stay out of your business? I mean, um, if you are living in your own home and you have your own family, or you're just living by yourself, and you go and you visit your parents and they get into an argument. And I don't mean, knock down, drag out where, they're beating each other up or, throwing things around the house, but they get into an argument. They can get into an argument about, money. They can get into an argument about, um, taking out the garbage. Parents do argue. And should you be that person who say, well, mom, you are wrong, or dad, mom does have a point? Should you do that? Or should you just leave the room? Or better yet, just keep your mouth shut. You know, um, because then a lot of times both of your parents will turn around and say, you know, be quiet. It's not your business. Uh, you know, why are you talking? This is between your mother and I, or this is between your father and I. I mean, at what point should adult children stay out of their parents' business? And again, if there's no, abuse or anything like that, do you have the right to even get into your parents' business? Hello, GP Man 45. You know, um, uh, we had a show a month ago or so. I think it was probably about a month ago, where we were talking about, um, should parents have should children have a say in whether or not their parents remarry? And that was a lively show. People, had their, different opinions and what have you. But at what point do you, as an adult child, need to stay out of your parents' business? And at what point, if you have adult children, do you tell your children to mind their own business? I mean, we have some households now, um, where in some households, not all, in some, as the marriage progresses over the years, and you're married longer and longer, some couples sleep in separate bedrooms. And there have been some adult children who have, made comments about that. questioning their parents. Why are you sleeping in a separate bedroom? Are you all getting divorced? Whatever. But is it your business? If your parents are still living under the same roof, they still come to the dinner table, they're still, doing everything else. But at the end of the day, they go into one room, dad goes into another room, and they see each other the next morning. Is it a child's business? I mean, is it? Should you care? So, hello, Feisty One. And again, Feisty One, GP Man 45, and Frankie, welcome. I mean, should an adult child care if your parents are not sleeping in the same bedroom? Okay, and Frankie says to stay out of it. So hello, Crucible Man. So again, as an adult child, I've seen my parents, get into arguments, whatever. And there have been times when I've put my 2 cents in, and usually I was on the side of my father, and my mother was always the one who would say, mind your business, and when I think about it now, should I have put my nose in their business? No. I mean, no one was being physically abused or anything like that, but why do we as adult children feel the need to stick our nose into our parents' business? And again, hello, Tuttles, welcome. And again, I say, with some marriages, as the marriage, gets older, or they're married longer, I shouldn't say older, that they're married longer. You have couples who sleep in separate bedrooms. And I know that there have been some of my friends have commented on the fact that their parents sleep in separate bedrooms, and they don't like it. But is it really your business? Is it your business to sleep? I mean, is it your business to comment on your parents' sleeping habits? I mean, are you concerned about their sex life? I mean, what? I mean, is it your business? And Feisty One says relationships are complicated. Crucible says mine slept separately for decades. I mean, you have parents that sleep in separate rooms for whatever reason. Is it you who should question it? If you walk in on your parents and they're arguing about money, should you get into the middle of it? Are they about to lose their house, or is it just the fact that mom went off and bought a dress for $300 and dad didn't like it, or dad went out and bought a big screen TV set and mom didn't like it? Is it your business? So having rambled on, I am going to open it up. I'm going to send invites out. Tuttles, I know you're probably cooking, but I am always going to put them out there. And Feisty One, you requested it, so you have the mic. And GP Man and Frankie. I'm sorry, Feisty, go ahead.
I'm going to package it this way. I think that there are times when adult children should get into their parents' business, but it has nothing to do with the parent. If you're talking abuse or things like that, I think it is frankly okay to get in the business. I also think if you're talking older parents that you might feel they're being taken advantage of by others, I think it's okay to get in their business. But if you're talking about strictly the parents' relationship, the husband-wife relationship, I think children should stay out of it, even adult children. Relationships are complicated on a good day. And there are many things that children in many relationships and in most relationships are not privy to. The workings between a husband and a wife, the kids shouldn't know all the ins and outs. And if they do, that just adds another level of complexity to it. But assuming they don't know everything, nor should they. And so they should mind their business. Again, if somebody's not being abused or being taken advantage of, it is not the adult child's responsibility to manage their parents' relationship.
Okay, and I am talking strictly on just the day-to-day relationship. I'm not talking about if they're being taken advantage of, if they have, dementia, Alzheimer's, or anything like that. I'm talking strictly, you know, you are just in your parents' business because you're in your parents' business.
Yeah, no, relationships are complicated. Mind your business.
Okay. All right. So Tuttle says dad snore, moms don't like it. You got that right. You got that right. I mean, men tend to snore, but I must say that I also snore, and I can so but so why do you think why do you think adult children have the need, like, some of them just can't help themselves and want to put themselves in their parents' business? I mean, sometimes some of them just, they just can't help themselves. They're constantly having to say something. And if a child keeps doing that, do you think that they run the risk of either their parents pushing them away, or that there's just a resentment that is always there, that their parents never say anything, but there's that slow simmering resentment towards that adult child? Anybody want to answer that one? Feisty one, you want to come back on, or Crucible Man,
Yeah,
GP Man?
I'll say I do think parents can feel a little like if an adult child does that, and again, you're talking two adults in a relationship, a husband and a wife, I think that one parent could feel like you're siding with the other or feel ganged up on. And yeah, I don't know. I don't see a circumstance where you should be in their business like that. And it's not, to your point, it's not just dads that snore, women snore too. So.
Like I said, I snore. So, all right, GP Man, you came on next. So, what do you want to say?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Well, yeah. In fact, my folks kind of are in town right now. They're visiting, but it's kind of funny how, they've been married for 40 years now, and they still argue just like any couple. But I guess once you get to a certain age, it's like arguments are kind of minimal. You just gotta have to put up at that point. But there's been some things that I came across that kind of stood out, but it's none of my business, how they live their life, what they're spending their money on, as long as it's not hurting them. But same thing, like, for example, they let me borrow a car. My truck's in the shop right now. They let me borrow a car, and I found some things that, well, let's just say they're prescriptions to definitely get it hot in the bedroom, if you know what I mean. And I didn't say anything. It's not my business. As long as they're happy, respect everybody's business, just like I would respect a friend's relationship. You don't get in their business as long as nobody gets hurt.
Okay. All right. Crucible Man, what do you want to say?
Hello, everybody. I grew up at a time, in the 60s and the 70s where it was very much an environment of children are seen and not heard. And I was fortunate for the balance of my childhood that my parents got along very well. It was when we became late in our teenage years, when going off to college and whatnot, that things, I recall, started to get a little bit shaky. But I don't remember any arguing per se. I don't remember any cross words or things like that. And I certainly don't ever remember either of my parents asking any of my siblings or myself what we think of their situation or what side we would pick, or they just never solicited anything from us with regard to we couldn't even tell if they were having a dispute, and God knows they were sure having them. But I think to your point about why do adult children want to intervene, I'm just speculating, and it would be from my own personal standpoint, is you grow up wanting your parents to be together. You want the relationship to be harmonious. You want it to be stable. You don't want visions or images of your parents bickering or, God forbid, throwing things at each other or just being in a disagreeable mood all the time. So I think maybe subconsciously, and again, this is just me speculating wildly, that maybe subconsciously when we see our parents arguing and we're adult children at that point, we kind of get nostalgic for wanting that harmony back. We want our parents to get along. We want that family unit to be, stable. We don't like to see our parents arguing. It's disquieting to us. It's one thing to see two siblings arguing. That's very normal. But in our world as children, even as adult children, it's not quote unquote normal to see your parents bickering. It makes you very unsettled, even as an adult. That's just my opinion.
All right, so let me ask you this. Let's see. Feisty One says, I could see intervening in a heated argument, telling them both to chill out. Okay, so I was just about to bring up this heated argument. What if you had a sibling that was constantly in trouble? I mean, they were in trouble in school when they were growing up, and then it turned into they were getting in trouble, say with the law, or at work, they were always losing their job, or whatever reason they were always in trouble, and your parents were in a very heated argument. One parent wanted to continue to help this kid, the other parent wanted to kick the kid out. And that's your brother or sister. Do you think if you walk in on that argument, or if that argument starts in front of you, that you as an adult child or as a sibling have the right to say something? Yes, you can say it is a family matter, but if this child is constantly coming back to their parents saying, help me, help me, help me, and they're not going to anyone else, they're just going to the parents, help me, help me, help me. And one parent's fed up, the other one's like constantly wanting to help the person. Do you as an adult child have the right to say something? And welcome, Angie. So anybody want to take that one? Feisty, Crucible, GP Man, anybody? I'll start with Crucible Man. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I think if it's a heated argument or something of that nature, then yeah, I think then human nature would be to kind of intervene and try to keep the peace. And we all see ourselves on some level at some point as problem solvers. So if we think that there's a role we can play in mediating.
Hold on. I'm not talking about human nature. I'm talking about specifically that your parents are arguing because one of your siblings is constantly getting in trouble. They're going to jail. They can't keep a job. They constantly come back to mom and dad to bail them out. Do you as the adult sibling or child have the right to intervene?
Well, right is a tricky word. I don't think you have the right. No, it's not your business. You're not the parent, even though you're part of the family unit. And it's admirable that you want to intervene. I don't think you have the right to do that. I don't think it's your responsibility, and that's not your environment that you're in charge of. You still are the child, and the parents are still the parents. And I don't think if you're going to frame it as a right, then no, I don't think you have the right.
Okay, and I am strictly speaking right. So GP Man, I'm gonna go to you. What do you think? Do you think that again you have the right as that child or sibling to intervene in your parents' argument over your brother or sister?
I would say yes at that point, not with the parents, their business. But when it comes to a sibling, yes, because at that point, you would be considered at lateral level. And you care about your parents. So, yeah, you would definitely, it's your business because you care that they're being taken advantage of because of their shortcomings from the sibling. I would say yes.
Okay, so if one parent is saying, I want to help this child of mine who's always in trouble, and the other parent is saying, no, I want to kick him out the house or let him sit in jail or whatever, you would side on the air of the parent who wants to kick them out?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Feisty One, what do you have to say?
So what if it's perceived shortcomings of the sibling? Because again, I grew up hearing my mother's, I came from a large family. And so at any given time, there was the need of one sibling weighed heavier than the need of the others. And so it's kind of like, you know that this sibling has a need. I had a sister who had a husband who was awful to her physically. And so, and it was one of my older siblings. I come from a large family. And so I even knew that, when my sister called, my parents went, and my mother would tell my father, make her leave him. And my father would say, I can't make her leave him. She needs to leave him on her own, and we'll be here when she does. So I think it depends on the scenario. I don't know that I could blanket say, because I just think that it depends on the situation. I think, family dynamics play a part. I think that, what that relationship is like, the sibling with the parents. I just think it's really, for me, is scenario based.
Okay, so again, I'm going to say what I said to the Crucible Man. I'm saying that this particular sibling is always getting into trouble. I'm not saying trouble with their spouse, if there's a domestic issue, whatever. I'm talking about, like I said, they're in and out of jail. They're constantly, asking for money. Every time they, get into trouble, they're always coming back to mom and dad. That's
So
what
if it's a scenario like that where you see your sibling as a user, as a whatever, then I think, yeah. I mean, it's like having very much like, I don't know who said it, being on the same level. I think it was GP Man. I'm not sure who. If they're on the same level, at that point, it's like the adult child is on the same level as the parents, and you're having a open and honest discussion about somebody who's a user or somebody it doesn't matter that it's your sibling. I think you can have that discussion.
Okay, and GP Man says, Feisty One, we came from the same house, had the same opportunities. Does that make a difference? Feisty One?
Coming from the same house with the same opportunities doesn't necessarily mean that siblings will end up in the same kind of situations, though. So, I sort of loosely agree with it, but not necessarily. Again, it's circumstantial, right? Like, what if you have a sibling that I don't know, that I don't have this scenario, but what if you have a sibling that gets strung out on prescription drugs for some reason? Like, is it, then should you say don't support them, or I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Am
Tuddles, you
I?
actually want to say something. Welcome.
Hello. Am I coming
Hello.
through okay?
Yes, you are.
I think that, in my opinion, it's not up to a sibling to say something to a parent if a sibling thinks the parent's being used, because in my personal experiences that I've had, some people they're soft starters. Like, I was 19, had a job, had a car, had everything. My brother, it was just taking forever. But now my brother, he makes like 200 grand a year, was married with a kid and stuff like that. It just took him a little longer to get rolling. You know what I mean? So, like, when he was at home doing all this nerdy computer shit in the basement, living off of parents and stuff like that, in the long run, it ended up helping him out in his future. I just happened to be like, as soon as I was done school, I was just wanting to get out and get money to like buy a hot rod, So I just think different people have different starting points, and it's just, you got to get over that hump, and then you're rolling. It just takes some people a little bit longer to do that.
Okay, but again, what if it's not a hump? What if it's just the fact that this sibling is just a chronic get in trouble person and always coming back to mom and dad saying, help me, help me, help me? At what point do you cut him off or cut her off?
I don't think it's up to the sibling to make that decision. It's up to the parent.
Okay. So as a sibling, would you get upset if your parents did not make that decision? Would you say, Mom, Dad, what the hell are you doing? When are you going to say no? When are you going to kick them out? I mean, are you ever going to do that? I mean, do you ever get to that point as the adult child?
No, I might say something to the sibling like, hey, get your shit together, but it's not up to me to talk to my parents about my siblings' dependency on the parent.
Okay. All right. Spicoli, what do you want to say?
How you doing, Salad Blue?
Hey, Spicoli, long time. So what's up?
Yes, it's been a while. You been doing all right?
I have been doing just fine.
Good to
Thanks
hear.
for asking.
All right. I say about
Hey,
25.
Boom Hour, what's happening?
Toddler. Yeah, I didn't know if you were still on here. You got off. Toddler. Uh, I think about 25 or little less than that, 23, 22, somewhere around 22, 20 years old. If you should stay home and do your basics in your community college, and then go off and then start college. When you're about, I don't know, whenever you finish all that shit.
Okay,
So if they drop out, if they flunk out after they begin college because they're partying and doing all that, no, I'll give you one
no.
chance. We
Okay,
saved up money all our life.
so
Yeah,
you
we
would kick
saved
your
up a
child
lot of
out?
money. No, I wouldn't kick him out. He'd just be out of school, and he'd be living back here at home. I mean, it depends on the financial situation. I may give him one, but that is expensive.
Okay, okay.
You know, if he's going to go up there and just party it away, you can't do that. You got to party. If you want to party, you better party, get your ass up, go to school, go to work, do all that.
And what if they don't? What if they consistently keep partying and they're not getting up and going to school or work?
Out,
Okay.
out.
And how many chances do you give them before you say out?
2.
Okay. All right. All right. I want to go to GP Man. GP Man, Crucible Man had a question in the chat. When are children ever parallel with parents? You made a comment that children were parallel with parents. At what point are children parallel with parents? That was the question from Crucible Man.
So I would say they're parallel at the point where they themselves are on their own 100%. They have their own household, they have their own life, they have their own relationships. At that point, it's only a matter that you care about your parents. That's the reason behind that, and you want what's best for them as they age older. But yeah, with the siblings, I really don't see how people are still taking care of their kids when they're 30 plus years old. It's just it's mind boggling. I mean, I honestly, me personally, I don't have any children, but if I did, I would give them a huge heads up. Hey, at 20, you're moving out. I'm just gonna, you have to start your own life. So my job as a parent is to get you prepared for the real world.
Okay, now you said that you kicked them out, and if they can't make it in the real world, someone failed. So you kick your kids out at 20, and if they can't make it in the real world at 20 or 21, you think someone failed? You don't think that that's too young, or
No.
you think someone failed at the age of 20?
No, in some states you're an adult at 17. You can do many things at 18. You're considered a full adult federally. But I mean, that's your job as a parent to prepare your kids to be, adults, to be responsible so they can make it in the real world. That's where you come in as a parent. And if you do your part, that means you did your part. But if they didn't do their part, well, that's on them. I mean, there's no point.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. So when you say they didn't do their part, what is their part?
Managing their money, understanding that, hey, the rent is going to be on the first.
And you think at the age of 18, 19, 20, 21 years old that they understand that totally, what that means in terms of managing their money?
Yeah. You as a parent, you should prepare them for that. Hey, eventually you're going to get older. This is how the real world is. That's where you come in as a parent. Don't just, hey, you're 18. I guess you're out of high school. You want to go to college. You want to go in the military. You want to get a job. What do you want to do? And just go day by day. No, by that time, they should already be prepared for the real world. What if something happens to you as a parent? You die. You die in a car wreck. Something happens to you or your spouse. And then what? They're going to have to learn the hard way? That's not.
No, I understand what you say there. I mean, because you're absolutely right. What if you lose your parents at the age of 16, 17? You're absolutely right. But usually when children when children are being taught money as they're growing up, when you're little, you put your money in your piggy bank. You don't take it out unless you really want to, unless you really need to, whatever. Then as you get older, when you're a teenager, you're teaching them more about money. But at the age of 18, 19, are children really prepared to know what it's like to pay rent, pay a water bill, pay an electric bill at that age?
They should know
Are you teaching your child when they're 15 years old how to pay a water bill? Are parents doing that?
I would say not the average parent, no, but you should be, because this way you want what's best for your kids. If you love them, you're gonna teach them, you're gonna educate them to be successful, to do well in life, whether it's in this country or another country, wherever they go. You want them to be happy and do well.
Okay, I know that Spicoli and Crucible Man and Feisty One, I know you guys want to come on and speak, but I just want to just ask the GP Man one more thing. So, at the age of 14, should I have taught, when my son was 14 years old, should I have taught my son how to pay a utility bill? Should I have prepared him?
The basics, yes. About 15, you already get a license to drive. Well, at least over here in Texas, you do.
Okay, most kids, across the country, they get their license or permits at the age of 16. So, okay, all right. I just wanted to be clear on that. I'm going to go to Crucible Man, and then I'm going to go to Spicoli, and then Feisty One. I will circle back around to you. So, Crucible Man, what did you want to say? Did you want to give a rebuttal? Because since GP Man was answering your question.
Not so much a rebuttal. I agree conceptually with what everybody's saying, and particularly GP Man. But where I think I part ways a little bit as far as the being on the same level with your parents, and maybe I'm interpreting this too precisely, but even though you're on equal footing, let's say from the standpoint of you each have your own household, you have a roof over your head, you've got kids, you've got stability in your life, and you're closer to being friends than you were when you were younger, when it was a clear parent-child dynamic. I never, when my parents were alive, I never, ever, ever, and it wasn't because they were reminding me, I never, ever lost sight of the fact of who was the parent and who was the child. And I was in my 40s when my mother passed away, and I was in my 50s when my father passed away. But that parent-child dynamic never goes away. No matter how stable you become, no matter how much money you make, and how much of on equal footing you feel you are physically, materially, those are all things that are true. But you'll never, ever, the parent or the child, never loses sight of the fact of who really is, I'm not going to say in charge, but who's the more dominant personality. I've never had a situation where I felt like I was a peer with my parents at all.
Well, I think in charge is the correct term to use, because it's your parents' household and they are in charge of their household. So, okay, I'm going to go to Spicoli. What did you want to say, sir?
I really don't have anything to say. I agree with what GP Man was just, no, it was Crucible. Was that Crucible just speaking?
Yes.
Whoever just got through speaking.
Crucible Man.
Yeah, about your kids, you need to make them ready for life. When they become 10, you need to start teaching them just little things. Slowly. It's a slow, long, drawn-out process. And they'll learn.
Okay. All right. Feisty One, what did you want to say?
So I don't know if it was GP Man or Spicoli, whoever was talking about at 18 or 19, they should know. So get out and do and I'm sort of paraphrasing, like sort of get out and do your thing, right? I agree. Conceptually, I agree. I just disagree. I disagree with the age. I think that you should be preparing your children to be self-sufficient, to know how to manage money. And I agree that it is a slow process. It takes time. It's a step-by-step process. I just don't know that a college kid, somebody who's a freshman in college, would necessarily be ready to do that. Again, conceptually, I agree, but my kids are in college. I did support them, but they were given as was I, like an allowance, if you will. And I had to manage that money. And I did that throughout college. And so that was my expectation of my kids. Here is, you know, a little bit of money, and you manage that, and you had to manage it until you knew that you were getting some more. You weren't going to go out to the bars and spend it like that. That money that you got was for your clothing, to meet any needs that you had beyond food in the cafeteria at the dorm or whatever it was. And so when I say I agree conceptually, I think you should be training or teaching your children that. I just don't know that they are ready at that young of an age. Because to me, given the age that he was talking about, I'm thinking of a college student. And I think it is you start while they're under your roof. Then when they go off on their own to college, it is another step in the process, and they should be managing their money. And I think that's when you can figure out just how well they're prepared if they're able to manage that money that you're giving them or that they're getting from wherever they're getting it. So conceptually, I agree. I just a little foggy with that time frame.
Okay, all right. See how these conversations change. We were talking about children minding their own business. Now we're talking about kids managing their money. No, I mean, I also think the same. Welcome Code 2319. I also think this the same. Oh, hold on, one more. Welcome MHJ 1966. When you are in college, or when you leave high school, that's when you really start to learn, managing your money. You're not gonna, I mean, even at the age of 15, 16, unless you're responsible for paying the light bill, unless your mom, I mean, I can see if your mom and dad say, here, here's $35, and here's the electric bill, go and pay it, or go down to the store, or wherever you pay your bills to pay it. But at that age, you're not going to learn how to manage money. So I don't know. I think that the responsibility comes in when you're probably around 25, and I could be, maybe that may be too old for some people, because I mean, technically, if you do go to college, you're out of college, at 21, 22, whatever. But you're still coming back asking your parents for money. My son, he's in college. I give him money. He's not having to, I mean, he lives on campus, so he's not having to pay any electric bills or anything. So when I expect him to know how to do that, well, yeah, now maybe sort of, but until he gets his own apartment and he's really having to manage things like that, he's just a kid going to school, keeping his grades up. That's his job right now. Go to school, get good grades, and graduate and get on to the next level. So on that note, welcome Shy Lady. So did anyone else want to say anything? I'm gonna come back over to
is it okay if I say
sure.
something on that point?
Yeah,
That's
sure,
why I
go
turned
ahead.
my light on.
Sure.
Yeah, at 20 they are old enough. This is 30 years ago. My friend, after we graduated high school, they all went, or not all of them, but three-quarters of them went off to school, to college. And a bunch of us, or 3-4 of us, stayed home, and went straight to work. Now, and we'd go up there and party on the weekends with them. And they spent their money wisely. They didn't have to call and ask mama and daddy for money all the time. I mean, I think it was a note signed in the child's name, and that's what I don't like, is you go into debt, you go into life already in debt, $150,000 or whatever the case may be. Depending on what school you went to,
Hmm.
you go to school in whatever that student debt is.
You make a very good point. A very good point.
That's not that sucks. You got to pay that student loan off, and then you get to wait on Medicare, which is going to give you $600 a month. So it ain't right. Something ain't right in there. But back to the children thing, I think they are responsible. They should be responsible enough around the age 20, 22. At 25, they really ought to have their stuff together.
Okay.
That's all I want to say. Thank you.
All right. Mr. A says, I push trade school on my children, but I'm going to go to GP Man. Do you want to comment on what everyone else has commented on?
Yeah, we're kind of along the same lines. You want what's best for your kids to get them ready for the real world. But I think the sooner the better. I mean, what I did when I was a kid, I remember my parents got me a dog. Yeah, pretty much taught me the basics. Hey, you got to take care of your dog, teach your responsibility. You got to feed him, give him water, things like that, walk him. And as you get older, you get your driving permit. Hey, a car needs registration. A car needs, X, Y, Z. It's maintenance, little things like that. Hey, this is how the real world works. How to do different things. But yeah, what Spicoli was saying. Yeah, by that time, by 20 years old, I think that's a good time to leave the house. It just depends on your circumstances, of course. But if you're in college, well, I mean, you could always give them financial help. But I mean, as far as still living at home, still helping them out. Because here's the thing: I'm in my 30s, and one thing I've noticed, especially in the dating world, some of the people I've dated is they still don't have their life together, even in their 30s. And I kind of blame their parents in a way because they didn't get them ready for the real world. There's no
They live
reason
at
why.
home.
Yes. And this is actually more the norm. And here's somebody coming. So I did 8 years in the military. I already have my degrees. I got my life together. Paid off my home. I have my life together. So me coming into talking to some of these individuals, what have you done in your 30 plus years? Just stay at home, be on social media. It's kind of like it's kind of embarrassing, if you will.
All right, now let's go to now we're switching gears again with the topic. Let's go to the adult children living at home over the age of 30. Do you think with everything that has happened, I'm not just talking about with the pandemic or whatever, just in the last, I would say in the last 10 years, do you think that adult children living at home is a necessity for both the parents and the children, meaning parents may need some financial help, kids may need some financial help, child moves back home to help pay the rent, help pay some bills, that way they're saving money on rent, helping mom and dad with the mortgage? Would you say that was okay? And I'm going to the GP Man first.
If they're providing some kind of help, but most of the times they're not. Yeah, the actual parents are still helping these grown kids out. It's
Okay.
always that. It's always that recipe. Rarely do you have somebody. Of course, I've seen it before where the parent is disabled and they still need help. So you're living there instead of just living apart. It makes more sense just to be there for the health reasons to help them out with their disability. That's a different circumstance, but that's the minority, not the majority of the circumstances.
Okay. I'm going to go to Crucible Man. What do you think?
Well, I think I think to answer your question, yes, I think over the age of 30, there's all kinds of different dynamics that come into play with, perhaps a spouse, your one of your parents is deceased and the other one is very lonely, or maybe they've got health issues. There's all kinds of things happen when parents get older. But I think what comes running through all of these different facets of this conversation is that you're always your parent's child, and your parent is always your parent. And how they prepare you for life, how they get you ready to pay the bills and go to college and things, obviously determines what quality of life you're going to have. But I'm sure we've all seen these cartoons or these little memes where you've got a parent holding a child's hand and the child is very young, and then fast forward 40 years later and the the child is holding the parent's hand, almost in a role reversal. So even though the caretaker roles may reverse, your mother is always your mother. She's not your friend. She can be your friend, but she's first your mother, and then she's your friend. Same with your father, and they'll always be your parents, and you'll always be their child. You won't be their friend first; you'll be their child first. At least that's the way I think the dynamic works. So, the relationship between parent and child is obviously, I think Feisty once said it, obviously very complicated, and it evolves over time. But provided you've had good communication with your parents, they've done the right thing, you'll do the right thing for them later on. But I don't think that dynamic ever changes, no matter how old we get.
Okay. All right. Feisty one. You want to add to that?
Sure. No, again, I think, there are, it sort of speaks to what I was saying. There are scenarios in which I think it's okay. And that's a classic example. A lot of times the roles do reverse. There are many times, in a real simplified example, I would take my mother to the mall, and we're crossing the mall a lot, and I grab her hand. And so, as a child, she would grab mine. And so I think that's perfectly okay. To me, that's what family is about. But I just don't. I think it's important that you let kids go out into the world as well prepared as possible. And the sooner you start, the better it is for everybody. But I just don't believe that everybody is ready, even with the appropriate teachings. I don't believe that everybody is necessarily ready at that young age of 16 or 18 or whatever it is. Because I don't know that they've been, to your point, I think you were driving a point home. Have they paid an electric bill? Have they paid rent? Have they paid, conceptually they may get it. It's almost like theory versus practice, right? They may have the theory down, but have they done it? And I think that's in part what my parents did for me in college, taught me. That was the practice of managing my money. I also think.
Okay, Feisty one, you're walking away, so you're getting faint.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I also wanted to comment on the trade school versus college. I don't know who said it. It's somewhere up in the chat. I think either is appropriate. Don't waste your money sending a kid to college if that's not their thing, if school's not their thing, and they can go to a trade school and that's what they want. It's no different than, trade school, college, or military. I think whatever is the best fit and the right decision. But I think parents should play a part in that decision making. And I don't know. That's it.
Okay. I'm going to make this comment, then I'm going to give it back over to Spicoli. I think he wanted to say something, but there are times when your parents still help you out. I mean, even your adult years. I mean, I know, as an adult, my parents still, came in and they helped me out. And I know that as my son gets older, I will probably, in fact, I know that I would probably still help him out. To me, as long as your kids are good kids and they're, they're living a good life. When I say good life, meaning they're not getting into any type of trouble, whatever. I don't see anything wrong with helping your kids out at times. They will need it. So, Spicoli, I'm going to go to you. I do believe you had something you want to say, sir.
Yes, on the helping the parents helping the child out. I started working at 14. And I would throw money where my mom always hid money. So I knew where she kept her money. So I would throw her, part of my check in there to help out. And she found it. It was like after my dad died. She goes, "Where'd all this damn money come from?" I said, "Well, I thought you'd seen that." She goes, "I ain't looked at that in years." And she had a good amount of change in there. But now, later on in life, though, life is what it is. And I've had to borrow, ask for money, and it sucks. It's embarrassing, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. That's true. I mean, but again, things happen in life where, that adult child is going to have to come back, to their parent, or, even,
It
to ask for
is.
money, so,
It is.
um, you know, um, um, it just happens. So, does anyone else want to say anything? Because I have another question. What do you do now? Now that we're changing it up a little bit. First, I was talking about minding your own business when adult children need to stay out of their parents' business. What do you do when what they say failure to launch, where your kids just don't move out of the house? I mean, what do you do? Do you just outright kick them out, whether they're ready or not, quote unquote ready? Or do you just let them, they're 45 years old and they're still living in the basement or still living in that childhood room, across the hall? I mean, what do you do? And at what point and at what age is appropriate for you to tell your adult child it's time to leave, get out, move, go? What do you do? You see, GP Man says millennials had that failure to launch problem big time. Okay, so anybody want to? I'll go to GP Man since you made the comment. I'll go to you first.
So,
Spicoli says now.
yeah, I'm a millennial myself. I'm in my mid 30s, so I can definitely speak from personal experience. It's very common for millennials to still be in their 30s and living at home or getting a big financial help or any kind of support from their parents, even in their 30s. So I can definitely say that millennials have that failure to launch syndrome going on.
Okay, all right. Well, I did.
May I ask how long have you been there? When you had to go back?
What do you mean go back?
How long have you been there when you had to go back?
Talking about living at home, or when he left, or
Yeah, once you left, you're at mom and dad's house.
I
Since
left
you
at
came
17.
back, how long have you been back?
Well, I'm not living with them. I have my own house. I have never
Oh,
moved back.
you
I left at 17, never came back. But I'm just saying, from my personal experience, many people I went to high school with, so my generation, the millennials, they're still living at home.
good. So they never left the nest.
They're still there, still getting fed, still getting the worm from Mama
You got to
Bird.
be kidding me, man.
Hey man, try dating in your
You
30s.
would not want to get out on your. I remember wanting to leave home at like 10. I
Yeah,
was
well,
ready
it's
to go and live on my own
at
at 10.
17, joined the army at 17, saw the world, came back, and just started my life. Never moved back in. And yeah, it's kind of hard, especially like when you're looking for a life partner to move forward with if they have that same syndrome because they're in your generation. The failure to launch.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, man.
okay, I'm gonna go to Shy Lady. Shy Lady, you've been waiting patiently. What did you want to say?
I want to applaud the young man who's in his 30s and
That's
doing his
GP
own
Man.
thing, GP Man, because his generation, unfortunately, a lot of people who did go to college, a lot of them are in heavy debt, big time student loan debt, and I see why a lot of them are probably still at home. Unfortunately, um, my daughter is 24; she moved out already, and no student loan debt, and she's doing her thing. But there are some people out there who, unfortunately, they did get into a lot of debt, and I really think I think it's a couple of things. It's the parents' fault for maybe allowing the child. To me, there are community colleges. You can go to a community college and not have to pay all that debt. You can still work and go to community college and get you a 4-year degree. Most cities have a setup like that, but there's some people that want to go to your prestigious universities for the name, and majoring things in like sociology and psychology and coming out and then getting like, oh, wow, I can't get a job. Well, first of all, you didn't prepare because you have a major that you can't really make any money off of unless you have advanced degrees like, a master's or a PhD if you're going to major in sociology or psychology. And that's the fault of the parent, not to try to influence that child to look at reality, real life situations. And college isn't for everyone. I think that a lot of people need to look at, trade schools and things like that. My daughter was telling me that she has friends that have tons of debt that are still at home and don't see any way out anytime soon. And, my daughter said, if I had to do it all over again, if I didn't want to go to college, I would have been a dental hygienist or something, a 2-year degree, and you can make good money. There was a young man that she went to high school with who, he was really smart. He was one of those gifted kids, but his dad told him his dad had been in the military, and we knew them over the years. And his dad said, don't bother with it if you don't want all that debt and you don't have to go that route. He became a fireman and he's doing quite well. There's always alternatives to college. So I think, like I said, society doesn't, the government has been steadily increasing the prices of colleges, and it just makes no sense while keeping the cost of living higher than the salaries match. It doesn't match up. It makes no sense how the salaries are continuing to steadily decline while everything else is going up. And it's just, we need to fix that in our society. We need to fix how the colleges are unnecessarily increasing the cost to go to school while you're only giving people, if you're lucky, a 3% raise every year. That's just not fair. Homes are going up, cars are going up, new cars, new cars are averaging $30,000 a year, and salaries are barely $30,000. It's just depending on what you majored in or if you didn't go to school. So we need to fix it as society, but parents also need to prepare their kids better as well.
Okay. I'm going to let Spicoli talk. I know he wants to say something, and then I'm going to comment on what Shy Lady said.
I just wanted to say that the 3% raise, that hasn't changed in 30 years. That's what we used to get. In 1992 or 3, we got a 3% raise every year, 3%. So it hadn't changed. So that's pitiful. I'm sorry to hear that, but that's pitiful. There's a lot they need to do, and I hope they do it. But thank you for seeing me.
No problem, Spicoli. Everyone has some really good points, but Shy Lady, I want to ask you, ask about the point where you said that there are community colleges, and everyone doesn't have to go to Yale or Harvard, whatever. And again, I'm just playing both sides here. Do you think that people should have to settle in order to make a living, in order to be prepared or to make a living? What if you really, really want to be a psychology major, and you get out of school and psychology, a lot of people may not be lining up to hire psychologists, but so does that mean that you should have to settle?
I don't think you should have to settle. If you know you really want to be a psychologist or whatever, then there are programs out there. You just have to do your research. There are programs out there that are free to do PhDs. There are programs out there. You have to do your research. But there's nothing wrong with being a plumber or a welder. Those people make good money. Firemen. There's, like I said, X-ray technician, lab technicians, they make good money. So you don't have to go to college. Get you a 2-year program or something, through a community college, and you can make a good living instead of getting in debt and going to college. Because if you don't major in a STEM or something, you can pretty much forget about it as far as a good salary when you're coming out of college, unless you are doing something artistic maybe. But other than that, it's tough. It's tough out there.
All right. All right. You answered my question. All right. I am going to circle around to Crucible Man. And before Crucible Man, you have the mic, but Tuttles, you keep hitting. Is that your fat fingers here? All right. All right, Crucible Man, what did you want to say?
I wanted to go back just very briefly to your original. What wasn't the original question, but it became an original question at some point, and that is, living in your parents' house past the age of, I think it started out as 30, but it could be anything after college, your mid 20s or so. And I guess it depends on the reason. I was in that unfortunate situation. I didn't move out of my parents' house until I was almost 26. It wasn't because I didn't want to. I wasn't making enough money. I didn't want to live with 4 other guys. I wanted to live in a decent neighborhood, and I wanted to live on my own without roommates. And I couldn't afford to do it with the money that I was making. My mother was very kind about it, but she got to the point where she was beginning to be a little firmer in our conversations about, how's it going at work? Do you expect to get promoted? Those kinds of things. But I didn't want to be there at that age. I wanted to be on my own, but I wanted to be on my own in certain circumstances that I couldn't meet at that time. Because I think what GP Man said about having his friends, a lot of his friends at home in their 30s, there's a difference between wanting to be at home with your parents and sponging off of them and having to live there because of circumstances. And maybe the circumstances are closer to what Shy Lady has been saying, college tuition and salaries and things like that. But in my case, I did not want to be there at 25. I couldn't wait to get out of the house. But my parents were very, very patient about it. But I understand these days some kids get very comfortable at home, and the longer they're there, the less incentive they have to get on their own. And I think once you wind up in your 30s and you're still at home, it's no longer a case of means anymore. It's a case of just not having the incentive. You've gotten too comfortable.
You make some very good points. And Tuttles, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate you taking the mic. So enjoy the rest of your day or evening. Okay. Crazy Lady says, my dad had a 2-week rule. 2 weeks for getting out, and at what age? I did not have a failure to launch. I was actually kicked out of the house. My mother, she kicked me out of the house. I was kicked out at the age of 22. Either 22 or 23. I think it was 22. I would stay out late, and I had this particular dog that would always tell on me every time I came in, and she would not put up with me coming in the house at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. She says, you're living under my house, my rules. You will not come in, at 3 o'clock in the morning. You will not come in, whenever you want. You are to be in the house at 1 o'clock, and here I am. I'm grown, whatever, but I'm in her house. And my father, he was behind her 100%. And she said, the next time you do it, you are getting out. I did it like 2 days later, and my mother effectively kicked me out of the house. She said I had a week to find some place to live. I found some place to live within a week, and I was out, and she was serious. So, situations like that, looking back on it, her rules, I understand. Was I pissed at the time? Of course I was. Of course I was pissed. And then when she said she wanted to come over, I was like, you're not coming over to my house after you've kicked me out. What so yeah, but at the same time, I was working, at a company, that pay, good wages, whatever. I was able to get a very nice apartment in a nice area, whatever, and I was fine. Haven't been back home since. So, every situation. I want to go back to what Crazy Lady says. Crazy Lady says, okay, the 2-week rule, month at the most. At 18, you are gone or paying half of the household bills. Okay, all right. What do you guys think about that? At the age of 18, you are gone or you're paying half of the household bills. I'm going to go to Spicoli. What do you think about that, sir?
Oh, shit. I didn't know it was on. I was thinking about your predicament in 21. But see, you were you were in a position where you could succeed.
I
But
was.
you were just partying a little too much,
I
and
was.
you
I
know,
was not
like
obeying the get back home rules.
right. I wouldn't either. I'd have been kicked out sooner than you would have. But
I mean, I also
but
come from a family where, when we were outside playing when we were younger, be in the house when the street
the
lights came on.
lights, yes,
If you weren't in the house,
exactly.
your mom was
Oh, you
walking down the
got a
house with
whooping.
with that belt. So
Yes, you didn't want to see that we had a big ruler. Oh man, it had metal inside of it. But yeah, you didn't want to see that. Oh, that sucked. But what crazy lady say?
she
Did she
said
write it?
that at the age of 18, her father said either get out or pay half of the household bills
Half of the bills.
at the age of 18.
18. I don't know. That's rough. I don't know if a teenager could earn that much unless you really knew a skill or a trade. Because your ass is just going to damn college. So I don't know. What'd you
Okay.
do, Seth? Did you leave? I mean, Stefakel.
Crazy lady, Spicoli wants to know: did you leave, or did you end up paying the household bill? And she said
Before I was 18.
she left. Yeah, she left before
I see it.
18. Okay,
Um,
I'm gonna go to
wow.
GP Man. What do you want to say, GP Man? You have any comments to make on any of that?
I like what Shot Lady said about making sure that if your kids are planning to go to school, to make sure they go the right route. Something that is useful. Instead of getting a degree in art or in literature, maybe get into something in dental hygienist, or maybe a mechanic or something in welding, something that could be useful, plumbing, rather than just going to school just to go to school. A degree is not what it used to mean. It's not worth much anymore. Many folks, it's about who you know rather than what you know. So I agree with what she said. I wanted to put in my 2 cents on that.
Okay. And Crucible Man, I'm gonna circle to you, and then I'm gonna go to Shy Lady, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Crucible Man, what do you want to say? Crucible Man, you there? Okay, we will go to Shy Lady. Shy Lady, did you want to make a comment?
Hey, yeah, I thought Crucible Man had typed in that he had to go, but
Oh, okay, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I agree. I was listening to, well, not listening to, but reading Crazy Lady's comments that 18, get out or pay half the bills. I think, like Spicoli said, it's kind of tough for a teenager to be in a position to pay half the bills. They usually don't have very much money, but I guess, back in a lot of those days, things are worse than they were 30 or 40 years ago in terms of salaries and income. Colleges were not this crazy as far as the cost to go. Um, Things are much worse. The salaries, like I said, are not increasing like they should. So I think it's wrong, though, to expect a kid that's 18 years old to um, kick them out. I had grandparents like that. When you got 18, you had to get out regardless. Now, these were people who were born in like the early 1900s. So they had that mentality where when you got 18, you had to get out and go find your own thing, whatever. A lot of my male relatives went to the military, and the women got married. They found them husbands when they got 18. They went and found husbands, and that's what they did back in those days. But I just think the expectations are a little bit different nowadays, and I think parents need to hear their kids while they're in middle school as far as guidance. Hey, what do you want to do? Don't wait till they're in their junior or senior year and then start talking to them about what you want to do. They should start noticing that maybe their kids' gifts and talents and guide them in those directions, or have a talk with them to say, hey, what are you interested in? But you just need to prepare them better. I think things can be better if we guide our kids, because like I said, college, everyone doesn't need to go to college. There should be alternatives to college. Everyone doesn't need to go. You can make a good living without going to college. So we just need to be mindful of that and really lessen the blow, because once you get out there, it's not easy.
This is true. This is very, very true. Does anyone else? I sent invites out to people who have not come on to have the mic. Does anyone want to say anything before we wrap it up? Spicoli, I know you came back on. I will give you the mic. But does anyone else want to say anything who has not had an opportunity to speak? I want to give everyone an opportunity. Okay. So
No, I'm good. I'm good.
you
It was a
okay?
great show. I had a good time.
Thank you. Oh, Podfather, you're on. You wanted to say something? I think you're on. And Feisty One.
Yeah, I was just going to add,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yes. Hold on,
Okay.
Podfather. Let Feisty One, then I'll come to you. Go ahead, Feisty.
I think Shy Lady is spot on. I think in the end, I think the expectation that someone that young could go out and make it on their own, the way things exist today, is an unrealistic expectation. I also strongly agree with the fact that everybody doesn't have to go to college. It's not, you have to assess the kid and what their strengths are and their gifts are, and make a decision based on that. Assist with making a decision based on that, whether it's college, whether it's a trade school or military. You know, my one of my brothers says close to me, college wasn't for him. My parents started out sending him to a private university that was a crap load of money, and he came home. He ultimately went to trade school and became a licensed electrician and made an awesome amount of money. He worked at a university as a licensed electrician. So there are many paths that kids can work, but I just think, going back to the original conversation about whether they're ready, I just, given the world and the way it's changed and the cost of living, it is almost impossible for normal working adults to be able to live and keep their head above water. So to expect that a 17-year-old or 18-year-old could, it's a pretty high expectation. Doesn't mean it's not possible, because there are some that are able to do it, but I don't believe it's true for all.
Okay. And Podfather, thank you for waiting patiently, sir. What did you want to say?
How much time do we have? I mean, I heard
No,
you mention a couple times that we were getting ready to end the show.
I know, but then we keep talking. So, so what do you?
All right, so it's not a time issue. Okay, so
No,
all
go
right.
ahead.
Man, I try to keep this as short as possible, but it's in order to even express on my story. I mean, so many details have to be given, but I'll start by saying that the morning of my 18th birthday, I'd woke up. It was any normal day to me. I mean, at least normal day around my house anyway. Normal day to me is quite unnormal for a lot of people, but I'd woken up, and I remember walking out to the kitchen and expecting to see the typical sheet cake and birthday card and here's $10, get out of our face, kid type thing, but I woke up and I knew immediately something was off, because my mom wasn't in the kitchen. Dad was sitting at the kitchen table like he always does, and instead of a cake, sometime throughout the night, they'd come into my room and got my duffel bag, and my duffel bag was sitting on the kitchen table. And my dad, without even so much from looking up from the morning paper while he was drinking his coffee, he just kind of scooted the duffel bag over the side of the table. He says, "You're 18. Here's your duffel bag. I packed it for you. Get out of my house." And I mean, I'm 18, literally. I mean, I haven't been 18 years old for 6 hours yet. You know, I was kicked out of the house. I knew he was serious. I left, of course, but I mean, I had absolutely nowhere to go, no school, no job or anything. I was still in school. I stayed in school for as long as I could. Managed to finish out most or all of my junior year and most of my senior year. I literally slept in the back of various friends' cars that drove to school. They'd let me sleep in the back of their car because, I would obviously be able to get woken up and taken to school the next day. I wouldn't miss school that way. So that was kind of like my alarm clock thing, and, I would, be allowed to sneak into their houses in the evenings before their parents came home to take a shower, that kind of stuff. They'd occasionally sneak me out some food, and it got pretty rough during the winter, let me tell you. But there was one friend who I went to. His parents let me stay with them for several weeks, and during the coldest part of the winter. But I eventually had to drop out of school, got a job. I did clearly had no choice. I mean, I had to get a job, and so I had to drop out of school. And then I remember when you had to take the dropout slip around to each of my teachers, the one teacher that I really, really hoped would talk me out of it. I remember to this day, I remember in the back of my mind is my sociology teacher. I loved psychology and sociology and all that. And that's what I wanted to be growing up. I wanted to be a marriage counselor. And I always took those kinds of classes, those elective classes. I remember thinking, this is my favorite teacher. I kind of had a rapport with him. And so I went to his class last, and I remember hoping in the back of my mind that he would try talking me out of it. I wanted him to talk me out of it. I wanted him to give me guidance and tell me there was some other way, but he didn't. Instead, he took me out in the hall, told me I was a loser and I was never going to amount to shit in life for dropping out of school. And there was a part of me that broke that day. Believe me, there was. I mean, the one adult in my life that I was depending on to show me guidance kicked me in the freaking nutsack and rolled me down a flight of stairs. And that's what it felt like. But at the same time, now that I'm an adult, I mean, I really think that those events, my parents kicked me out, I was having to sleep in cars, dropping out of school and being told that by my teacher, those were the driving forces that made me the wealthy man that I am today. I really don't think I would have the means in life today that I have had I not experienced that and been put into that situation by them. I would probably just be, and not saying there's anything wrong with it, I'm not, but I would probably just be a blue collar factory worker, just like my dad was, worked 33 years in a boiler house in a factory, and just leading a normal life. I mean, that's what I grew up with. That's what I grew up around. And, and I really think that it was those things and my teacher telling me that, my parents turning their back on me, it made me strive even harder because I wanted to prove everybody wrong. And so business after business, I tried starting, failure after failure, high school dropout. I mean, there was no college or grants for me. Every business I built, I literally built by the blood of my knuckles. And eventually, I mean, I made it, I've graduated from blue collar work to owning a blue collar business, eventually sold that. Now I do white collar work, but I would not have the wealth and the means in life that I have today if it were not for those experiences. And although I there's a part of me that's still bitter about that, I wouldn't change it either. I would not change it because I love where I'm at today.
Hey, Papa, first of all, thank you for sharing that story. That was very personal. I have two questions for you. Did you ever, or have you ever considered going back to get your GED or anything?
I did. I had considered going back to get my GED, but and actually signed up to a kind of like a schooling system here where I live called Elston. And what I found is that I was talked down to quite a bit because I was so much older than the other people that were going back. I mean, the people that were going through their getting their GED were late teens. People had just dropped out and were immediately getting their GED, or, 21, 22 years old, immediately getting their GED. When I went back to get my GED, I was 37 years old. I didn't need it. I knew that. I was doing it for me. And then sitting there being talked down to like I was a piece of trash took me back to my childhood days. And it's like, you know what? I don't need this. I was doing this for me, not for you. I'm not going to sit here and put up with it. So after about a week of doing that, I took the pre-test to the pretest to determine whether or not you could. And I realized I would be able to pass it. And so I thought to myself, that's enough for me. I wanted to be able to see that I could do this. I took the pretest and passed it with flying colors. So it's like I was convinced I've accomplished in my mind what I needed to satisfy that curiosity. I was done. I quit. I walked away from that too. This time it was kind of a turnabout, if you will, turn of the tables, if you will, for lack of better words. But it was me turning my backs on them instead of them turning their backs on me.
Okay.
And so when I walked away, I still was able to do it with my head held high and a bit of a smug attitude about it that time around. If I'm going to be honest, it's like, you know what? I don't need you. I've proven that in the test. I've made it all this time. I'm doing better now than the teachers that told me I would never amount to shit. It's like, I'm not putting myself through that. I don't need that in my life. So I never went back and finished it after walking away.
All right. Well, my second question was the sociology teacher who you were hoping to talk you out of dropping out, and your parents. Did they live to see the success that you are now? And what do they say?
I actually went back to the school several years later, hoping that he still worked there. I wanted to throw it in his face, but not just throw it in his face. But I wanted to let him know what he did to me that day. But he had already retired. He didn't work there anymore. But and to me, that was a letdown because I wanted him to see as a teacher where he failed to teach. And I really, really, so bad. A part of me to this day still wants him to realize, not just know. It's not about knowing. It's not an arrogance thing. It's he failed as a teacher. I was depending on him to talk me out of quitting that day, and I would have stayed. I just needed one adult to say, "Kid, don't do this," and it wouldn't have been a debate. I'd have just been, "Okay, thank you." I guess I needed to know that somebody was there for me and would be, and would say, "Hey, I know you can do this. Stick around." And I wanted him to realize where he failed, but he had already retired by that time. So it's like, that was kind of a loss. So I do kind of still carry that on my shoulders to this day. But as far as my parents go, there's a lot of resentment there. There is. I guess, ironically, even though my dad's the one that kicked me out, I have less resentment for my dad than I did my mom, because looking back now, I realize my mom stayed in the bedroom. She hid in the bedroom so she didn't have to deal with it. She didn't even try to have a voice or she didn't even say goodbye. I knew she was in the bedroom awake because she knew what was going to happen. And it's like, she didn't even say goodbye when I left. It was just, my dad didn't even look for the paper, but at the same time, it's, he at least had the balls to be there, hand me my bag and say, good riddance. It's to where she just kind of disappeared and hoped it would be an out of sight, out of mind thing. So I guess I kind of have more resentment towards her than I do my dad. But the beauty part of it is where karma has come back now. I've broken my family's cycle of poverty. And a lot of people talk about how broke they were. Let me tell you, you haven't been broke until your family is so broke that when you eat bread for your evening meal to go, you bread and butter or whatever, you literally have to pick the mold off the bread before you butter it. You haven't been broke until your first bed was a bed that was gotten out of the neighbor's trash because your parents couldn't afford yourself one. I grew up having to sleep in the neighbor's kids' piss stains because that's how broke we were. I had a bunk bed and I was the only child at home. but it was a bunk bed because that's what they were throwing away. I grew up sleeping in another kid's piss stains. You know, people have been broke. Yeah, I get it. But you haven't been broke till you've been that broke. Now, as a child, I thought that's just the way life was growing up. But when I got out and started to figure out my own way in life, I realized, wait a minute, whoa, there's some really good things out here and I want them all. And so that drove me even harder and everything. But the beauty of it now is the irony is because I have now achieved this level of success, my family is constantly there with their hands out saying, can you get this for me? Can you buy this for me? Hey, how about a loan? And every single time I tell them no. It's like, no, I'm not doing anything for you. No, figure out your own way in life like I did mine. And that has gone on for so long throughout the years that they've stopped asking for money because they know I'm not going to give it to them.
Wow. Okay, Dude, you wanted to say something. Dude, you have the mic. Hello, you there?
Hey, how are
Okay.
you?
Hey,
How's it
Dude.
going? Hey.
Everything is going well. Did you want to say something?
I kind of just stepped back into the program, and then I saw there was an invite. So what I'll do, I guess, is backtrack a little bit and add to before. As far as the student debt thing goes, I think it's far more appropriate for parents to have that trade school. So by the time they're even out of high school, they have $50,000 in the bank rather than $50,000, and be further down the timeline, and possibly be in an environment that's more conducive for growth, success, rather than just assuming you have 4 to 8 years to binge drink and potentially get into trouble and who knows what. So, and I know you wanted to kind of get away from the immediate stuff, but even with COVID-19 and, we got riots are the new fashion, I really think it pays for families to stay together as that core unit for support and now defense even. Something to think about a little bit. But
No,
thanks for having me on.
make a good point.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and I will see you Friday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, everyone. This has been a good show. Podfather, again, thank you for sharing a truly personal story. We started out talking about adult children minding their own business, and as again, the show evolves into different things. Everyone has had really good points. Everyone has made really good points. So again, thank you for coming on. Does anyone have anything else they want to say before we end it? Does anyone else want to say anything else? Anybody? Shy Lady? No? Okay. Feisty one? You want to say anything?
Oh, no. Great show. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. All right. GP Man, do you have anything you want to say?
No, we got to do this again. It was fun.
All right. And Podfather, anything you want to add?
No, I'm good. I think I've spoken enough.
All right. Everyone's good. All right. So to everyone, thank you. And to everyone, thank you for liking the show. Thank you for your pod beans. And Frankie, I am trying to get a weekend show, but my weekends again are so busy because I do know you're at work and you can't say anything. But again, everyone, this show does not work with all of you. Crazy Lady, Podfather, Shy Lady, Feisty One, T-Berry, Spicoli, Crucible Man, GP Man, everyone, thank you so much. So again, speak your truth. I am Solid Blue Sister. This is my turn to talk, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye. Y'all were getting deep today. I think Podfather, you took it to the deep level. But thank you. Crucible Man, you are back. Thank you, everyone, for liking the show. Spicoli, what do you want to say? You want to come on and talk over with the music?
Oh, you're in. Now you're in. I thought you were done.
I am done. I'm just playing my music.
I wasn't speaking to you. No, I didn't even know I hit the button. I'm walking around holding the phone, just listening to the end, but I will groove to the
You can groove to the
end.
music. Shy Lady's laughing.
We'll throw a little hi-hat.
Oh, Shy Lady. Thank you, my friend. I'm glad we were able to give you the giggles.
You are welcome. I fell asleep earlier, and I'm glad I woke up and got the last hour.
Okay, I'm glad you did not fall asleep during my show.
Oh no, it was too good.
All right. And Podfather, I will say, even though we don't always see eye to eye on certain topics, but I do thank you for coming on to the show. So thank you very much.
Yep, not a problem.
Okay, y'all. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.